So, did Russia just destroy a major NATO operations center in Ukraine? 300 people killed, along with dozens of high-ranking NATO officials, Ukrainian officials at the top levels. You weren't allowed to know about this story. We're going to show you the evidence in a moment, as well as why it's being kept silent from you. But first, some context on this story. So, March 2nd, U.S. and NATO launched a terror attack inside of Russia. I'm not sure if you remember this, using Ukrainian soldiers. They crossed the border into Mother Russia, into the Bryansk region, and they carried out terrorist attacks in a couple of village areas. There's a lot of gunfire. People were killed, injuring a 10-year-old boy, also firing drones. Drones were dropping incendiary devices on residential homes. So it was a residential attack. It had no military strategic importance whatsoever. The only thing it was designed to do was provoke Russia. And then Putin declared it a terrorist attack. Russia declared it a terrorist attack, said game over, we will respond. And then he made it in a devastating way, a devastating response to this attack. A few days later, on March 8th and 9th, Putin responded, launching for the very first time hypersonic missiles, 6 of them to be exact. These are the Kinzhal missiles, known as the Daggers. President Biden described them as, quote, a consequent weapon that is almost impossible to stop. So what we didn't know at the time was what specific targets were struck. One of these 6 Kinzhal missiles struck a secret bunker in western Ukraine near the capital. It was devastating. Russia struck a bunker that was 400 feet below ground and destroyed it. According to reports, 300 people, among them dozens of NATO officials, were also there and killed at the time. But oddly, this story has been redacted.
The U.S. military has registered another failure. No, they've not lost another war. It's about their latest hypersonic missile test. It was a dud. The test took place on the 13th of March. The U.S. Air Force was testing what's called the ARRW, the Air Launched Rapid Response Weapon. It's a hypersonic missile made by Lockheed Martin. After the test, the Air Force released a statement, and this is what the statement said. The test met several of the objectives, and the team engineers and testers are collecting data for further analysis. Sounds promising, right? This was on the 24th of March, the statement came. But it turns out the Americans left out some details. Details like the fact that the test had failed. This is what reports say. The weapon failed to transmit in-flight performance data. Now, this data is crucial to understanding how the weapon flies. And if this data is missing, then the test is basically a failure. And it's another setback for America in the hypersonic missile race, especially for the ARRW project. Because this is not the first failure. Lockheed's missiles have failed before, at least thrice. They suffered booster test failures. And production keeps getting delayed because of this. The U.S. had initially planned to deploy the ARRW this year, but it seems unlikely. You see, the U.S. is struggling to catch up with Russia and China. Both are said to be far ahead in terms of hypersonic weapons.
Today, the Prime Minister hands down a major defence review, the most damning finding that Australia is not ready for conflict with China or for the modern age of missile warfare. The review said the Australian Defence Force is not fit for purpose for our current strategic circumstances. The review explicitly states that China is our greatest challenge and says the United States is no longer the unipolar leader of the region.
We are facing the most challenging set of strategic circumstances that we have for decades. And the defence posture that we have had for the last few decades has served our nation well. But in the circumstances that we now face, that defence posture is no longer fit for purpose.
These are some amazing words by the Turkish Interior Minister, Süleyman Soylu, who, out with a new statement in a television interview, the Turkish Minister Süleyman claims the world, the whole world, not just the world, the whole world hates America and suggests that Europe is merely a pawn of the United States. He downplayed Europe's significance, saying that the trend is in America's favor. So the idea that America wants Europe to be in decline is totally in America's favor, like the destruction of the Nord Stream pipeline. He says, United States is losing its credibility on the global stage. And he says it's attributed to various factors, such as foreign policy decisions, economic policies, and perceived cultural dominance. He says there's no such thing as Europe. There is America. Europe is a trend in the Americas column. Turkish Interior Minister's comments may have far-reaching implications, BNN says, for international relations, particularly among Turkey and the United States and Europe. Such strong anti-American rhetoric could contribute to increased tensions between the countries and may negatively impact diplomatic relations.